Welcome, Mike and Andreas. Thanks for joining us today. Really important for us to try and understand ahead of your new season what it is that drives the team, how you prepare yourself, and hoping that we can draw some parallels against what we're doing here in Xledger. It'd be really interesting to hear what your goals are ahead of the upcoming season.
The goal is always to win a championship, to bring a championship to Bristol. That's the ultimate goal. While that's the goal, there is a process that goes behind it. It's very much about getting better every day in terms of what we want to do offensively, defensively, in terms of communication. And at the same time, there is the more detail-orientated approach on our week and what we want to achieve as a group. Stats play an important role. It's very analytic-driven, so we have something called synergy. It breaks down the game for us and provides a lot of statistical information to us. So that certainly helps us a lot, but then it's also analysing the information that you receive.
Introducing new players to the team is going to be quite a challenge. Mike, how do you embed new players into the team?
We kind of pair them up in housing, so we have someone who knows the area, knows the team, knows the way Bristol works, if you like. So we always try and pair the new guys in with those guys. And then it's just a question of kind of getting to embrace Bristol and the culture around the team. Standards
is what drives our culture, really, and you know, our values around respect, care, commitment and trust. These are things that we discuss quite a lot of the time.
Of course, you're getting a lot of players that might come straight out of college in the US. How is that a cultural difference for them?
I think probably the biggest change for the guys coming from college is they're coming now to a full-time job. So they are expected to manage themselves as well. It is a big step for some of them. So we do try and help them, but in the same breath, we're not going to smother them and mollycoddle them either.
Do you get called Father Mike at any time?
Occasionally, yeah.
I think it's also important to mention that players need to be adaptable. They need to have a growth mindset, so they need to understand they're coming into a new situation. They've got to learn. They might have been a good college player, now they've got to learn to be a good professional.
How do you make sure that everyone's coordinating and communicating effectively?
Establishing roles and responsibilities, I think that's the starting point. Mike would take care of the things off the court, and I would take care of the things on the court. And certainly we have the medical team and we have the performance side of things. But it's very much about communication, knowing what we're trying to achieve as a group, and everyone has the specific responsibilities that they take ownership of.
Is there regular meetings? Are there regular ways that information can be brought to your attention?
Usually most days we'll have some form of team meeting, if it's watching video or going through certain logistics around schedule. Mike will send certain information throughout the week in terms of preparation for a game, if we're going for a team meal. We do have to be very concise with the information we give out as well, because anything that's too long or too wordy, it's not going to go in, so we need to be very precise with everything.
We see that as well with a lot of different projects that we're running. If there's too much information, people don't tend to check their emails. We're charging for a service, and quite often it's going to cost a client of ours a certain amount of money to apply resource to the projects. So we need to be mindful that we're using our project teams in the most efficient manner, and to create a team that's going to drive themselves forward with less input from yourself. You talk about needing to be concise in the way that you communicate. Effective way of doing that is to allow or empower your players and your team members to drive their own change and make their own decisions. How does that work amongst the sort of players?
Yeah, empowering players is very important. The leadership group plays a part to it, especially guys that have been around the program, so they understand the expectations and the standards and what we're trying to achieve as a group. We need to trust each other, that everyone has a role to play to this, and that's how we approach things. Especially when you're having, you know, with wins, obviously the morale is high, everyone is feeling good, but it's when you're having those more challenging moments and how you're able to navigate through them.
I think that's a really key point, that even when things don't go your way, that there's still an opportunity to find success out of it as well. Anything can happen over the course of a season. How would you deal with the unexpected?
Obviously during the COVID seasons we had postponements then for COVID and things like that, but since then it'd be very, very unlikely for a game to be postponed. I think we've been late to a game maybe once in the last 2 years, but generally there is always a plan B. I've spent my whole working life with plan B, so You're always thinking the what if scenarios, what if.
And you've got to control what you can control in those moments. I think there's some things that are outside of our sphere of influence, so we cannot worry about them. We need to focus on finding solutions.
Some of the intangibles, you've got a player that was playing well one week, becomes injured or unavailable for the next game. How does that take an effect on the overall squad?
When you have injuries will happen, so everyone has to be ready. I think that's a message that we say with all the players. Everyone has a role in the team, and some players might have a bigger role and some players might have a smaller role. When you have more than one injury, that can become a little bit more difficult. And certainly we have periods where, from a staff perspective, things can get really busy. So medical team, our strength and conditioning coach, everyone has to be able to go above and beyond the call of duty for us to be able to perform on the court.
How do you keep a role interesting after 20 seasons? How do you keep it interesting for yourself? How do you motivate yourself as well, other than results?
I think it's with coaching, as much as you have the lows, you also have those highs. And I think those highs drive you when you're having those low moments, and just unlocking players' potential and optimizing team performance and finding what makes a guy tick and what to make a team competitive. I think all those factors are probably why I'm still coaching.
Mike, separate to the goal of winning silverware, what's success in your role?
I think make sure we arrived at all the games on time.
Just you're going to say that. Just
We've fed everyone. Yeah. We're in the right hotel rooms. We've not left a mess anywhere.
Aside from the obvious of winning silverware at the end of the season, what does success look like from your standpoint?
To know that we've controlled what we could control. I think for us that's very important, optimizing our performance irrespective of the different situations that we had to handle throughout the course of the year. And certainly having some silverware is a great way to measure it, but also knowing that you've given everything you could have given to it and you've gone above and beyond the call of duty.
And that's all you can ask of the players, the team around you, as well as just making sure everyone works to that optimal level.
And I think there's some seasons where you might have a losing year, but what you have done as a group, you're really proud of, and it's something that you build on to next season.
I know with a lot of our projects, success isn't material, it's not measurable at the end. It's sort of an intangible that we're influencing finance change. So the benefit of having a more efficient process is not always measurable on day one. It's not until months, years later that the actual benefits materialise to a certain degree. And I guess that could be similar to the way that throughout the season you're unable to get yourself out of the detail. But by the end of the season, you're hugely proud of the amount of effort that's been put in by everyone.
Yeah, I think that's a very contributing factor. Winning or losing doesn't matter at that point because you know you've done everything you could have done to work towards success.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you get to lift some silverware and achieve that ultimate goal. But I'll be looking forward to tracking your progress throughout the season. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a great pleasure.
Cheers.
We don't have to even make it awkward. No, we can do the awkward now. So.